Their paraplegic millionaire, confined to his wheelchair, lived surrounded by society's indifference. During a gala night among rich and powerful people, he felt lonelier than ever. But everything changed when a child, without fear or pity, made him a simple invitation. "Do you want to dance?"
Vincent Morgan watched the distorted reflection of his face in the tinted window of the limousine. At 42, he carried the weight of a fortune built with blood, sweat, and tears on his shoulders, but also the burden of a loneliness that no amount of money could buy. The wheelchair beside him, folded and propped against the leather seat, was more than an object. It was the symbol of everything that separated him from the rest of the world. The accident had happened 5 years ago. A head-on collision on a rain-slicked highway, and in a matter of seconds, his entire life changed. The doctors said he was lucky to be alive. Lucky. Vincent let out a bitter, ironic smile every time he remembered that word. What kind of luck left him bound to a chair, watching life pass by through a window like a permanent spectator? His company, Morgan Holdings, continued to thrive under his leadership. The numbers were impressive, the profits record-breaking, but none of it filled the void that grew inside him with each passing day. The meetings were cold and clinical, the employees kept a respectful distance, and the few friends who still visited did so more, out of obligation than genuine pleasure. "We're here, Mr. Morgan," announced Charles, his chauffeur for over a decade. The man got out of the car and walked to the rear door, retrieving the wheelchair with the efficiency of someone who performed the same ritual every day. There was no pity in his movements, only professionalism, and for that, Vincent respected him. The crystal ballroom glittered under the golden lights of the evening. His foundation's annual charity gala brought together the city's elite in a public display of philanthropy that, in truth, served more to feed egos than to help those who truly needed it. Vincent knew this, but he participated anyway. It was part of the game, of the appearances he had to maintain. As Charles positioned the chair, Vincent transferred himself from the seat with precise rehearsed movements. His arms were strong, developed from years of physical therapy and exercise, but that didn't lessen the humiliation he felt every time he had to perform this maneuver in public. The stares always came, some curious, others pitiful, most just uncomfortable. "Do you need me to escort you to the entrance, sir?" Charles asked, adjusting his boss's tie. "No, thank you." "You can go. I'll be staying late tonight." Vincent pushed the chair toward the main entrance. The red carpet was rolled out, photographers were strategically positioned, and several important figures were already mingling. As he approached the door, 2 security guards hurried to clear a path, treating him with an excessive courtesy that bothered him deeply. The main hall was stunning. Crystal chandeliers hung from the soaring ceiling, exotic flowers decorated every table, and a chamber orchestra played softly in the right corner. Vincent knew this scene by heart. It was always the same opulence, the same people, the same empty conversations. "Vincent, so good to see you here," exclaimed Marcia Silverton, president of the Ladies' Charity League, approaching him with a forced smile. "How are you holding up? I hope you're taking good care of yourself." The question carried that condescending tone he hated so much, as if his physical condition automatically made him fragile in every aspect of life. "I'm fine, Marcia. Thank you for asking," he replied politely, but without warmth. "How wonderful. You know how much we admire your work with the foundation. It's inspiring to see how you've overcome your hardships." Hardships. Another word that minimized his reality. Vincent nodded politely and moved away, heading for a more secluded corner of the ballroom. He watched people circulate, sipping champagne, laughing at jokes that probably weren't funny. They all seemed to live in a parallel world where real problems didn't exist. A woman approached, wearing a discreet catering uniform. She was a brunette with a simple appearance, her hair pulled back in a low bun. She held a tray of champagne flutes and moved carefully among the guests, clearly uncomfortable in that environment. "Sir, would you care for a glass?" she asked, stopping beside Vincent's chair. "Yes, please." As she leaned down to offer him the drink, a small child appeared, running and hiding behind the woman's legs. The girl was about 4 years old, with curly hair and big, bright eyes. She wore a simple little dress, clearly out of place amidst the luxury of the event. "Lena, what are you doing here? You're supposed to be in the staff break room," the woman whispered, visibly worried. The girl peeked out from behind her mother, and her eyes met Vincent's. For a moment that felt like an eternity. She watched him with genuine curiosity, without fear, without discomfort, without pity. It was as if she were seeing just an interesting man, not someone confined to a wheelchair. "Mommy, why is that man sitting in that funny chair?" Lena asked, with the brutal honesty typical of children. Maria, her mother, turned red with embarrassment. "Lena, it's not polite to ask questions like that. Apologize to the gentleman." But before the girl could respond, Vincent smiled, a genuine smile he hadn't felt in a long time. "It's okay. I use this chair because my legs don't work the way they should. It's like wearing glasses when you can't see well." Lena nodded, seeming satisfied with the explanation. Then, without any hesitation, she took a step forward and held out her small hand to him. "Do you want to be my friend? You look sad." The question hit Vincent like a punch to the gut. How long had it been since someone had shown genuine interest in his company? How long had it been since someone had seen him as a person, not an object of pity? Maria tried to pull her daughter back. "Lena, don't bother the gentleman. He must have important things to do." "Actually," Vincent said, still, holding Lena's small, warm hand, "I have nothing more important to do than talk with a new friend." The girl's face lit up. "Do you want to dance with me? Mommy said people come here to dance." The invitation echoed through the ballroom like a silent thunderclap. A few people nearby paused their conversations to watch the unusual scene. Vincent felt the weight of their stares, but for the first time in years, he didn't care what they thought. "I would love to dance with you," he replied, his voice thick with an emotion he couldn't control. Lena clapped her hands and began to sway to the rhythm of the music, holding tightly to Vincent's hand. She twirled, bounced, and smiled, transforming that moment into something magical. To her, it didn't matter that he was in a chair. She was dancing with a friend, and that was all that mattered. Maria watched the scene with tears in her eyes, touched by the kindness her daughter had awakened in this man who clearly carried a deep pain. Other staff members began to approach, concerned about the situation, but something in Vincent's expression made them back away. When the music ended, Lena leaned in and gave Vincent a little kiss on the cheek. "You're a good dancer," she whispered in his ear. In that moment, Vincent felt something he hadn't experienced in years: hope. The simplicity of that gesture, the purity of that affection, touched a part of his soul he thought was dead. "Thank you, little one. You're a great dancer, too." Maria approached again, clearly embarrassed. "Sir, I am so sorry. My daughter can be very spontaneous sometimes. I hope she didn't bother you." "What's your name?" Vincent asked, ignoring the apology. "Maria Sanchez, sir. I work on the event's cleaning crew." "And you, what's your full name?" he asked Lena. "Carolina Sanchez, but everyone calls me Lena," she answered, smiling. Vincent stored those names in his heart as if they were precious treasures. For the first time in a long time, he felt he had found something real amidst all the artificiality. "Maria, I'd like to speak with you before the event is over. Would that be possible?" The woman hesitated, clearly nervous. "Of course, sir. I'll be finishing my shift around 11. As mother and daughter moved away so Maria could continue working, Vincent remained in the same spot, watching Lena wave at him from a distance. Something had shifted inside him. A small flame of hope had been lit. But from across the ballroom, an elegant woman watched the entire scene with cold, calculating eyes. Letitia Morgan, Vincent's aunt, and his only remaining family did not like what she was seeing one bit. That woman and her daughter represented a danger she was not willing to ignore. And as Vincent smiled for the first time in years, Letitia was already planning how to protect her nephew from what she considered a potential threat. The event was starting to wind down when Vincent finally managed to find Maria again. She was in the service area, putting away empty trays and collecting the last of the glasses scattered on the tables. Lena was asleep in a nearby chair, curled up like a kitten, using her mother's apron as a blanket. "Maria," Vincent called softly, so as not to wake the girl. She turned, still holding a stack of plates, and for a moment, she looked lost. The difference between their worlds had never been so stark. Here she was, a simple woman working hard to support her daughter, standing before a man whose fortune could solve all her problems with a snap of his fingers. "Mr. Morgan, you didn't have to come all the way back here." "I could have come to you," she said, lowering her head in embarrassment. "Please, there's no need for all that formality. And most importantly, you don't need to feel inferior for doing honest work." Vincent moved closer, positioning his chair so he could speak to her in a more intimate tone. "May I just call you Maria?" She nodded, but still avoided direct eye contact. "Of course, sir. What your daughter did today, it was special for me. It's been a long time since anyone has treated me so naturally." Vincent paused, choosing his words carefully. "I want to repay that kindness, if you'll let me." Maria finally looked him in the eye, and Vincent could see suspicion mixed with curiosity. "I don't understand, sir. Lena was just being herself. We don't expect anything in return." "I know. And that's exactly why I want to help." He took a deep breath. "Maria, tell me about your life. What's it like working events like this? How do you manage it while taking care of Lena?" The question caught Maria off guard. No one had ever shown genuine interest in her routine. "Well, it's not easy. I work several events during the week, sometimes on weekends too. Lena stays with my neighbor, Mrs. Rose, but she's getting older and—" Maria stopped, realizing she might be sharing too much. "I'm sorry, I don't want to bother you with my problems." "You're not bothering me, please continue." Maria hesitated, but something in Vincent's sincere expression encouraged her. "Lena needs to start school next year, and I'm worried. With my irregular hours, it'll be hard to pick her up and keep up with her activities. And the money? Well, it's never enough when you have a child." Vincent nodded, absorbing every word. He saw in Maria a quiet strength he admired. She wasn't asking for a handout, just being honest about her struggles. "Maria, I have a proposal for you. I'd like you to consider working for me." Her eyes widened. "What do you mean?" "I need someone to take care of my home, someone trustworthy, who will treat the place like a home, not just a job." Vincent could see the disbelief on her face. "The salary would be triple what you're making now, full-time with benefits, full health insurance for you and Lena, and set hours. You'd have weekends off and your own accommodations in the house." Maria almost dropped the plates she was holding. "Mr. Morgan, that's so generous, but I don't know if I—" "You don't have to answer now. Think it over. Here's my card with my personal number. Contact me when you've decided." Just then, Lena woke up and stretched in her chair. Seeing Vincent, her face lit up with that pure smile that had touched his heart hours earlier. "Hi, friend. You're still here," she said, hopping off the chair and running to him. "Of course I am. I was just talking with your mommy." Lena looked between the two of them with childish curiosity. "Are you guys going to be friends too?" The question created an awkward silence. Maria blushed, and Vincent felt his heart race in a way it hadn't in years. "I hope so," he replied, looking directly at Maria. In the days that followed, Vincent couldn't get that conversation out of his head. There was something about Maria that intrigued him, a quiet dignity, a strength that contrasted with his own sense of powerlessness. He found himself waiting for her to call, checking his phone constantly. In his luxurious penthouse, everything felt empty and pointless. The expensive furniture, the valuable works of art, the breathtaking view of the city, none of it meant anything. He had built a gilded cage around himself. Letitia showed up on Thursday, as she always did when she felt she needed to check on her nephew. She was 60, with gray hair always impeccably styled, and a rigid posture that reflected her controlling personality. "Vincent, you seem different," she said, pouring herself a coffee in the gourmet kitchen. "More upbeat. Did something happen?" He hesitated. He knew his aunt well enough to know that any change in his routine would be viewed with suspicion. "Just some new deals at the company." Letitia watched him with piercing eyes. "I heard from some friends that you behaved strangely at the charity event. Something about dancing with a child?" Vincent felt his blood boil. "And what would be the problem with that?" "No problem at all, dear. I just find it curious. You've never shown an interest in children before." "Maybe I never had the opportunity." Letitia came closer and placed a hand on his shoulder, a gesture that seemed affectionate, but carried a subtle authority. "Vincent, you know I worry about your well-being. Sometimes when we're vulnerable, we can interpret simple gestures as something more than they really are." "What are you talking about?" "I just don't want you to get caught up in fantasies. Your condition, it attracts people with questionable intentions. You have a lot to lose." The conversation was interrupted by the ringing of his phone. Vincent glanced at the screen and saw an unknown number. His heart leaped. "Hello? Mr. Morgan? It's Maria Sanchez. About your offer." He moved away from Letitia, wheeling his chair into his office. "Yes, Maria. Have you made a decision?" I'd like to accept, but I have a few conditions." "Of course. What are they?" "I want to make it clear that my work will be strictly professional. I don't want you to think I'm trying to take advantage of your kindness. And Lena, she's a very affectionate child, but I don't want you to feel obligated to—" "Maria," Vincent interrupted gently, "your daughter gave me something I didn't know I was missing. If she wants to give me her attention, it will be her choice, not an obligation. And as for the job, it will be exactly as I said, professional and respectful." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "Okay. When can I start?" "How about Saturday? That way you two can get settled over the weekend and start slowly." After arranging the details, Vincent hung up with a smile he couldn't hide. When he returned to the kitchen, he found Letitia watching him with a worried expression. "Was that about work?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. "I found a new employee to take care of the house." "I see. And who might that be?" Vincent hesitated. He knew lying to Letitia was pointless. She always found out everything. "The woman from the event, Maria Sanchez." Letitia's face hardened. "The little girl's mother." "Yes." "Vincent, don't you think this is a bit rash? You barely know this woman. How do you know you can trust her?" "The same way I trust anyone, by giving them a chance. This is different, and you know it. She has a young child, she saw you in a vulnerable moment, and now suddenly, a perfect opportunity appears? Don't you find that a little too convenient?" Anger began to simmer inside Vincent. "Are you suggesting she planned all this?" "I'm suggesting you be cautious. Hire a private investigator, run a background check, at least check her references properly." "I'm not going to investigate Maria as if she were a criminal." "Then I will." Letitia picked up her purse with determination. If you won't protect yourself, someone has to. Letitia, I'm warning you. You're warning me what? That you'll cut me out of your life like you did with everyone else who tried to help. You? Vincent, I'm the only family you have. I'm not going to stand by and watch you get taken for a ride by people who only want your money. With those words, she left, leaving Vincent alone with his confused thoughts. For the first time in years, he felt hope, but also fear. What if Letitia was right? What if he was being naive? But when he remembered Lena's smile and the honesty in Maria's eyes, he decided that some risks were worth taking. Saturday couldn't come soon enough. What he didn't know was that Letitia was already on the phone with one of the best private investigators in the city, determined to uncover every secret Maria Sanchez might be hiding. Saturday dawned overcast, but to Vincent, it felt like the brightest day in years. He had woken up before his alarm, something that hadn't happened since the accident. For the first time in a long time, he had something to look forward to. At 10 in the morning, the intercom buzzed. Charles, who had been instructed to pick up Maria and Lena, announced they had arrived. Vincent checked his appearance in the mirror one last time, adjusted his navy blue polo shirt, and headed to the private elevator. When the doors opened on the ground floor, he saw Maria holding two small, worn suitcases, while Lena carried a pink backpack with butterfly designs. The girl wore a yellow sundress and white sneakers that had seen better days, but her radiant smile made up for any material simplicity. "Vincent, friend!" Lena shouted, running toward him and stopping just in front of his chair. "Mommy said we're going to live in your house. Is it true?" "It's true, little one. Welcome to what is now your home, too." Maria approached, clearly nervous. She wore simple jeans and a white blouse, her hair pulled back in a low ponytail. Even in humble clothes, there was a natural dignity to her posture. "Mr. Morgan, thank you again for the opportunity. I promise you won't regret it." "I'm sure of it. And please, just call me Vincent. Shall we go up? I want to show you where you'll be staying." The elevator ascended silently to the top floor. Lena pressed her nose against the glass, watching the city grow smaller and smaller below. "Mommy, look! We're flying!" When the doors opened directly into the penthouse, Maria was speechless. The space was elegant, yet welcoming, with large floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of the city. Cream leather sofas contrasted with neutral-toned walls, and modern art decorated the space with understated sophistication. "Wow!" Lena exclaimed, running through the foyer. "It's like a palace!" "Lena, don't run in the house," Maria chided, but her own voice betrayed her astonishment. "It's okay, Maria. A house needs life and movement." Vincent smiled, watching the girl's curiosity. "Lena, how about I show you where you'll be staying?" He led them down the hall to a spacious suite with two beds, one queen-sized and a smaller one, decorated with colorful pillows he had ordered especially for Lena. There was also a private bathroom and a small office that could serve as a study area. "This is for us?" Maria asked, barely able to believe it. "Of course. You need privacy and comfort. And Lena, see that door over there? It leads to a small rooftop garden where you can play." The girl clapped her hands and ran to the glass door, pressing her face against it to see the garden. Maria sat on the edge of the bed, running her hand over the soft fabric of the comforter. "It's so much more than I expected," she whispered. "You deserve something good, Maria. You both do." For the rest of the morning, Vincent showed them the entire house. The modern kitchen impressed Maria, who murmured about what a pleasure it would be to cook there. The library caught Lena's attention. She was enchanted by the floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. "Did you read all these books?" she asked, looking up at Vincent with admiration. "Many of them, yes. Do you like stories?" "Mommy tells me stories every night. She makes up the best adventures." Vincent glanced at Maria, who blushed slightly. "I'm sure she does. Whenever you want, you can pick any book from here for us to read together. At lunchtime, Maria insisted on cooking, even though Vincent explained it wasn't necessary to start working immediately. She prepared a simple but delicious beef stroganoff, and for the first time in years, Vincent had a home-cooked meal. "This is delicious," he said, savoring every bite. "It's my grandmother's recipe," Maria explained. "Lena loves it." "Can I make dinner next?" Lena asked, smearing sauce on her face. "Of course, sweetie. We'll cook together," Maria laughed, affectionately, wiping her daughter's face. Vincent watched the interaction between mother and daughter with a tightness in his chest. There was so much genuine love there, so much simplicity and joy. It was the exact opposite of the cold, formal environment in which he had grown up. In the afternoon, while Maria organized their clothes, Lena explored the rooftop garden. Vincent watched her from the living room, impressed by how she turned any space into a playground. She talked to the plants, chased imaginary butterflies, and hummed softly to herself. "She's special," Maria said, approaching him. "She's always been so affectionate and open with everyone. Sometimes I worry she's too naive." "Innocence is a rare gift, Maria. Don't let the world steal that from her." They watched Lena in silence for a few minutes. There was something comforting in that moment, a peace Vincent hadn't felt in years. "Can I ask you a question?" Maria said hesitantly. "Of course." "Why are you doing this? I know Lena was sweet to you at the event, but that doesn't justify this much generosity. Men like you don't usually care about people like us." Vincent thought carefully about his answer. "When your daughter asked me to dance, she didn't see my chair, my disability, or my money. She just saw a person. It's been 5 years since anyone has treated me like that." Maria nodded, understanding. "The accident, was it hard?" "The accident changed everything, not just physically, but the way people see me, treat me. I became an object of pity or financial interest. Your daughter gave me back something I thought I'd lost forever, the feeling of being human." Just then, Lena ran inside, interrupting the conversation. "Vincent, can you come see? There's a blue butterfly in the garden and she's beautiful." Followed the girl to the garden, where a blue butterfly had indeed landed on one of the flowers. Lena watched the insect with fascination, breathing softly so as not to scare it away. "It's magic," she whispered. "Why do you think so?" "Because she came here on our first day. Mommy always says butterflies bring good changes." Vincent smiled, thinking that maybe the little girl was right. Meanwhile, across town, Letitia received a call from Robert Miller, the private investigator she had hired. "Mrs. Morgan, I have information on Maria Sanchez," the deep voice said over the phone. "What did you find?" "Well, she's exactly who she appears to be. Hardworking, honest, no criminal record. Widowed 2 years ago. Her husband died in a workplace accident. Since then, she's been working multiple jobs to support her daughter. Her references are all positive." Letitia frowned. "Is that all?" "Pretty much. The only other thing I can add is that she has some outstanding medical debts from when her husband was sick, but nothing significant. She's an ordinary person, ma'am." After hanging up, Letitia grew even more concerned. Ordinary people could be the most dangerous when they discovered a life-changing opportunity, and she wasn't about to let anyone take advantage of her nephew. She decided it was time for a surprise visit. Back at the penthouse, evening was falling gently. Maria had prepared a light dinner, and the three of them ate on the terrace, enjoying the cool breeze. Lena told made-up stories about the stars, making Vincent laugh genuinely for the first time in a long while. "That star right there is the queen of the butterflies," she said, pointing to the sky. "And that tiny one is her youngest daughter." "How do you know that?" Vincent asked, playing along. "Because I talked to them. They told me they liked our garden." Maria smiled, watching the interaction between the two. There was something natural there, a connection she hadn't expected to see. The moment was interrupted by the buzz of the intercom. Vincent frowned. He wasn't expecting visitors. "Mr. Morgan, your Aunt Letitia is here," the doorman announced. Vincent closed his eyes, feeling an immediate tension take hold of his shoulders. "You can send her up." "Aunt?" Lena asked curiously. "Yes, my father's sister. She can be a little difficult." Maria immediately stood up, starting to clear the plates. "I'll take Lena to her room. We don't want to interrupt your family visit." "Maria, you don't have to—" But she was already guiding Lena inside the house. "Come on, my love. Let's pick a story to read before bed." A few minutes later, the elevator opened and Letitia emerged, impeccably dressed even for an evening visit. Her eyes scanned the room, immediately noticing the signs that other people were living there, a small jacket hanging on a chair, toys organized in a corner. "Vincent," she said, kissing his cheek coldly, "I came to meet your new employees." And at that moment, Maria appeared in the hallway, holding Lena's hand, who watched Letitia with innocent curiosity. The tension in the air was palpable, and Vincent knew that the tranquility of the past few days was about to be tested in a way he wasn't prepared to face. The silence that followed was as heavy as lead. Letitia examined Maria from head to toe with cold, calculating eyes, while Lena hid partially behind her mother, instinctively sensing the tension in the air. "So you must be Maria Sanchez," Letitia said, her voice as sharp as glass. "The new employee." "Yes, ma'am. It's a pleasure to meet you," Maria replied, maintaining her dignity despite her obvious discomfort. "And this must be your daughter." Letitia's eyes fixed on Lena with an expression that showed no warmth. "A small child in an environment like this? Don't you think it's inappropriate?" Vincent felt anger rise in his throat. "Letitia, they just got settled. How about we save the introductions for another time?" No, I think this is exactly the right time." Letitia moved closer, her intimidating presence filling the room. "Maria, can you tell me what your qualifications are for working in a home like this? I imagine caring for someone with my nephew's specific needs requires considerable experience." Maria swallowed hard. "I've worked for years in housekeeping and home organization. I don't have specific experience with special care, but I'm willing to learn whatever is necessary." "And your daughter? Where will she be during your work hours? Surely she can't be running around the house, disrupting the routine." "Mommy, why is that lady being mean?" Lena asked suddenly, her innocence cutting through the tense air like a sharp blade. Letitia stiffened. "I'm not being mean, child. I'm just being cautious." "Lena, let's go to our room," Maria said quickly, feeling the situation spiraling out of control. "No, Maria. Stay," Vincent intervened, his voice filled with authority. "Letitia, I need to speak with you, in private." He wheeled his chair into his office, and Letitia followed, her heels clicking irritably on the hardwood floor. As soon as he closed the door, Vincent turned to her with an expression she had rarely seen. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" "Protecting you, as I've always done." "Protecting me? You were attacking a hardworking woman and scaring a 4-year-old child." "Vincent, open your eyes. A woman appears out of nowhere, manages to touch your heart through her daughter, and suddenly she's living in your home. You don't see how that's a little too convenient?" "What do you mean, manages to touch my heart?" Letitia sighed as if speaking to a stubborn child. "I see the way you look at her, Vincent, and how you look at the girl. You're creating family fantasies that don't match reality." "And what would my reality be, according to you?" "Your reality is that you're a wealthy, vulnerable man. Women like Maria Sanchez know exactly how to take advantage of that. She's probably already researched everything about you, your condition, your loneliness." Vincent felt as if he'd been punched in the stomach. Do you really believe I'm so pathetic that someone would only get close to me for my money? It's not about being pathetic. It's about being realistic. You have a considerable fortune and no direct heirs. To a woman like her, you represent lifelong financial security. A woman like her? What kind of woman is Maria, Letitia? A desperate woman. And desperate people do desperate things. Outside the office, Maria had managed to overhear part of the conversation. Her hands trembled as she tried to distract Lena, who kept asking why the mean aunt didn't like them. "Mommy, did I do something wrong?" Lena asked, her big eyes filled with confusion. "No, my love. You didn't do anything wrong. Sometimes adults get worried and end up being rude. But I like Vincent. He's our friend." Maria closed her eyes, feeling her chest tighten. Maybe Letitia was right. Maybe she was being naive to accept this opportunity. Maybe she was putting herself in a situation where Lena would end up getting hurt. The office door opened abruptly, and Letitia emerged, her face red, with anger. She stopped in front of Maria, who was sitting on the sofa with Lena in her lap. "Maria, may I have a word with you? Alone?" Vincent appeared behind her. "Letitia, that's enough." "No, it's okay," Maria said, getting up and taking Lena to the garden. "Lena, stay here and play for a little bit, okay? Mommy will be right back." Maria returned and stood before Letitia, bracing herself for the worst. "I'll be direct with you," Letitia began. "I know exactly who you are. A hard-working, widowed, indebted woman raising a daughter alone. You saw an opportunity, and you seized it." "Ma'am, let me finish. I don't judge you for it. Any mother would do the same. But what I will not allow is for you to play with my nephew's feelings." "I'm not playing with anything. I just accepted an honest job." "A job that includes living here? That includes your daughter winning over the heart of a lonely man? You're too smart not to see what's happening." Maria felt tears burn her eyes. "What do you want from me?" "I want you to be honest. If you're only here for the job, maintain a professional distance. If you have other interests, be clear about your intentions. But don't let my nephew build expectations you have no intention of meeting." "And what if I have genuine feelings?" Letitia laughed bitterly. "Genuine feelings for a man you've known for a week? Please." Just then, Vincent approached. "Letitia, you've said enough." "Actually, I haven't said the most important part yet." She turned to Maria again. "I had you investigated." Maria's blood ran cold. "What?" "It's a standard precaution when someone gets close to our family, and you know what I found? Nothing. Absolutely nothing suspicious. You're exactly who you appear to be." "Then what's the problem?" "The problem is precisely that. People with stories that are too clean sometimes hide the worst intentions. And even if your intentions are genuine now, how can I be sure they won't change in the future?" Vincent exploded. "Enough! Letitia, you've crossed the line." "I've crossed the line?" "Vincent, you're so desperate for companionship that you're willing to ignore all the risks." "What risks? The risk of being happy? The risk of having a family? The risk of being used, abandoned, and destroyed financially and emotionally." Letitia's shout echoed through the room, followed by a dead silence. It was broken by the small voice of Lena, who had heard everything from the garden. "Mommy, why is everyone yelling?" Maria ran to her daughter, who had started to cry. She picked her up, whispering words of comfort as tears streamed down her own face. "I think we made a mistake coming here," Maria said, her voice broken. "Maybe it's better if we leave." "No," Vincent said firmly. "You're not going anywhere." "Vincent, maybe Maria is right," Letitia said, her voice softer now. "Maybe it's for the best." "You don't get to decide that. This is my house, my life, my choice. Your mistaken choice. Then let it be a mistake. At least it's mine." Letitia picked up her purse, clearly frustrated. "Fine, make your mistakes. But when it all goes wrong, and it will, Don't come crying to me." She headed for the elevator but stopped before getting in. "Maria, I sincerely hope I'm wrong about you. For my nephew's sake." After Letitia left, a heavy silence settled over the penthouse. Maria continued to comfort Lena, who couldn't understand why the adults were fighting. "Maria," Vincent began, approaching slowly. "You don't have to say anything," she replied without looking at him. "Your aunt is right about a lot of things." "She's not right." "Yes, she is. I am a desperate woman, and desperate people sometimes make decisions they shouldn't." "What kind of decision?" Maria finally looked at him, her eyes red from crying. "The decision to accept something that's too good to be true. The decision to let my daughter get attached to someone who could disappear from her life at any moment." "I'm not going to disappear." "You say that now. But what about when the novelty wears off? When you realize that taking care of two people is more complicated than you thought? And when your entire family turns against me?" Vincent felt his heart break. "Maria, Lena, come on, let's pack our things." "But Mommy, I don't want to leave. I like it here. I like Vincent." "I know, my love, but sometimes we have to leave the places we like." As Maria led Lena to their room, Vincent was left alone in the living room, staring out the window at a city that had never seemed so cold and distant. For the first time since the accident, he had found something worth fighting for, but he didn't know if he had enough strength for this battle. In the bedroom, Maria packed their bags with trembling hands, while Lena cried softly. And it was in this moment of despair that Maria's phone rang. It was a number she didn't recognize, but something made her answer. "Hello?" "Maria Sanchez. This is Robert Miller, private investigator. I need to speak with you about some important findings related to the Morgan family. Findings that could change everything." Maria hesitated before answering the phone, glancing at Lena, who was still whimpering in the corner of the room. A call from a private investigator couldn't mean anything good. "Hello?" she said, her voice trembling. "Mrs. Sanchez, my name is Robert Miller. I was hired by Letitia Morgan to investigate you, but during my research, I uncovered some information that I believe you should know." Maria sat down heavily on the bed. "What kind of information?" "I'd rather not discuss it over the phone." "Could you meet me tomorrow?" "It's about Mrs. Morgan's true motivation for pushing you away from her nephew." I don't know if I can. I'm about to leave Mr. Morgan's home." "Please, don't do anything rash. What I've discovered could change the entire situation. Can we meet at the coffee shop in the Plaza Mall at 2 o'clock? Maria looked at Lena, who had stopped crying and was now watching her with curiosity. "Okay, I'll be there." After hanging up, Maria stared at the phone, confused and worried. What kind of secret had Robert Miller discovered? And why would an investigator hired by Letitia be on her side? "Mommy, are we not leaving anymore?" Lena asked, approaching with red-rimmed eyes. "I don't know, my love. Maybe we need to stay one more day." Outside, in the living room, Vincent remained motionless in his chair, watching the city lights. Every word from Letitia echoed in his mind like hammer blows. Was she right? Was he being naive, letting his loneliness cloud his judgment? But when he remembered Lena's genuine smile, the way Maria treated him without pity or apparent self-interest, something inside him rebelled against his aunt's suspicions. It had been a long time since he had felt that lightness, that hope, that maybe there was more to life than work and solitude. He wheeled his chair to the room where Maria and Lena were. He knocked softly on the half-open door. "May I come in?" Maria nodded, quickly wiping her eyes. Lena ran to him and climbed into his lap without ceremony, as she had done so naturally from the first day. "Vincent, why doesn't the mean aunt like me?" she asked, snuggling against his chest. "She's not mean, little one, she's just Worried. Worried about what? Vincent looked at Maria over the little girl's head. Sometimes adults get scared that the people we love will get hurt. But I'm not going to hurt you. I like you. And I like you very much, too. Maria watched the scene with a heavy heart. She saw how Vincent held Lena carefully, how his eyes softened when he spoke to her. There was nothing forced or self-serving there, just genuine affection. "Vincent," Maria began hesitantly, "maybe your aunt is right about some things. Maybe I was rash to accept so much generosity. Maria, look at me." He waited until she raised her eyes. "In 5 years, no one has treated me the way Lena treated me that first day, like a normal human being, not an object of pity, and you offered me something I thought I'd lost forever." "What?" "The possibility of having a family, of being useful to someone beyond my business, of having a real home, not just an expensive house." Lena shifted in his lap. "Are we a family now?" Vincent and Maria exchanged a look, both feeling the weight of that innocent question. "I don't know, sweetie," Maria said softly. "Sometimes families are complicated." "But I want us to be," Lena insisted. "Can you be our daddy, Vincent? My daddy went to heaven before I was born. Mommy said he's taking care of me from up there, but it would be nice to have a daddy here, too." The girl's words struck Vincent like an arrow straight to the heart. He looked at Maria and saw tears in her eyes as well. "Lena, that's too complicated for a child to understand," Maria said, her voice thick with emotion. "Why is it complicated to love people?" The question hung in the air unanswered, a silent accusation against the world of adults and their unnecessary complications. That night, none of the three slept well. Maria lay awake thinking about the mysterious call from the investigator and what he might have discovered. Vincent stayed in the living room, watching the stars and trying to understand his own feelings. And Lena, though she didn't fully grasp the situation, felt the tension in the air and wondered why adults made everything so difficult. The next morning, the atmosphere in the house was heavy. Maria prepared breakfast in silence, while Lena played quietly in the garden. Vincent tried to work, but he couldn't focus on anything but the possibility of losing the two people who had brought light into his life. "Maria," he said when she brought coffee to his office, "do you need to go out today?" "I have an appointment this afternoon. Nothing important," she lied, not wanting to worry him with the meeting with the investigator. "I can watch Lena if you'd like." "You don't have to bother." "It's no bother. I love spending time with her." Maria nodded, but her mind was focused on the afternoon meeting. What had Robert Miller discovered? And more importantly, did she really want to know? At 2 o'clock, Maria met Robert Miller at the coffee shop in the mall. He was a middle-aged man with graying hair and a professional demeanor. He seemed embarrassed, as if he were about to betray the trust of his client. "Thank you for coming, Mrs. Sanchez," he said, gesturing to a table in the most secluded corner. "What I'm about to tell you may be shocking." "I'm prepared." Robert took out a leather folder and placed it on the table. "During my investigation into you, I accidentally uncovered some information about the Morgan family itself, information that Letitia probably wouldn't want to come to light." "What kind of information?" "Letitia Morgan isn't just the protective aunt she appears to be. She manages a large portion of Vincent's fortune and has power of attorney to make financial decisions on his behalf when necessary." Maria frowned. "And what's the problem with that?" "The problem is that for the past few years, she's been using that position for her own benefit. Small diversions that, when added up, amount to a considerable sum." "Are you saying she's stealing from him?" "I'm saying she has financial motives to keep Vincent isolated and dependent on her. If he were to get married to form his own family, she would lose that influence and control." Maria felt her stomach turn. "Why are you telling me this?" Because I saw how she treated you during the investigation. She's not protecting Vincent. She's protecting her own interests. And after meeting you, I believe you're exactly what he needs. Robert slid some documents across the table. These are bank statements and transfer receipts, all done legally but ethically questionable. Maria looked at the papers, unable to fully process what she was seeing. Numbers, dates, bank accounts. Evidence of a family betrayal that explained so much about Letitia's hostile behavior. What should I do with this? The decision is yours, but Vincent has the right to know the truth about who is really on his side. Back at the penthouse, Maria found Vincent in the garden with Lena. They were planting sunflower seeds in small pots, and the girl was laughing as she got her hands dirty with soil. "Mommy, look! We're going to have giant flowers!" Lena ran to meet her, leaving dirt marks on her dress. "That's wonderful, my love." Maria forced a smile, but her mind was turbulent with Robert's revelations. "How was your appointment?" Vincent asked, noticing her tense expression. "It was enlightening." That night, after putting Lena to bed, Maria approached Vincent in the living room. He was reading, but she could tell he wasn't concentrating. "Vincent, I need to tell you something important." He closed the book and looked at her attentively. "It's about Letitia." Vincent sighed. "Maria, if this is about what she said yesterday, you don't have to—" "It's not about that. It's about the real reason she doesn't want me here." Maria took the folder Robert had given her and handed it to Vincent. "A private investigator contacted me today, the same one your aunt hired to investigate me." Vincent opened the folder and began to examine the documents. As he read, his expression changed from confusion to disbelief, and then to a cold anger Maria had never seen before. "She was stealing from me," he said in a low, controlled voice. "For years, according to the documents. And I trusted her completely. I'm so sorry, Vincent." He closed the folder forcefully, his eyes shining with restrained emotion. "She made me believe you were the threat, that you were going to use me and abandon me, when all along she was doing exactly that." Vincent remained silent for a long moment, processing the betrayal. Then he looked at Maria with an intensity that made her take a step back. "Maria, did you know that by telling me this, you would be destroying the only family I had left?" I thought you had the right to know the truth. Even knowing it would mean that you and Lena would be the only people I could trust?" Maria swallowed hard, realizing the weight of the responsibility she had just accepted. "Yes." "Why?" "Because you deserve to be loved for real. And there can be no real love where there are lies." Just then, Vincent's phone rang. He glanced at the screen and saw Letitia's name flashing. "She's calling," he said to Maria. "Are you going to answer?" Vincent held the phone, looking at it as if it were a venomous snake. When he finally answered, his voice was ice cold. "Hello, Letitia." "Vincent, dear, I've been thinking about our conversation yesterday. I think I was too hard on Maria. I'd like to invite them to dinner tomorrow so we can try to start over." Vincent looked at the documents spread across the table, then at Maria, who was watching tensely. "Of course, Letitia. It would be a pleasure. We have a lot to talk about." "Wonderful. See you tomorrow, then." After hanging up, Vincent stared at the phone with an expression Maria couldn't decipher. "What are you going to do?" she asked. "I'm going to find out just how far this betrayal goes. And then—" He paused, his voice carrying a cold determination. "I'm going to make sure she can never again hurt anyone I love." But what neither of them knew was that Letitia had already sensed that something was wrong, and she was not the type of person to give up without a fight. The day of the dinner with Letitia arrived, heavy with tension. Vincent spent the morning reviewing all the documents Robert had provided. each page revealing a new layer of betrayal. Suspicious transfers, questionable investments made in his name, an offshore account he had never authorized, all signed with his power of attorney. Maria watched him from across the room, seeing how his shoulders slumped under the weight of the discovery. Lena played quietly in the garden, instinctively sensing that something serious was happening between the adults. 15 years, Vincent murmured, looking at a bank statement from 2010. She's been doing this for 15 years. You trusted her, Maria said softly, moving closer. I trusted her with everything. When my parents passed away, she was the only one who stayed by my side. After the accident, when everyone else abandoned me, she was there. His voice broke slightly. Or at least, that's what I thought. Maria knelt beside his chair. I'm so sorry you had to find out this way. Don't be. You saved me from being deceived for the rest of my life. He took her hand. But now I have to confront her, and it's not going to be an easy conversation. At 7:00, Letitia arrived punctually. She wore an elegant navy dress and carried an expensive bottle of wine, her usual way of showing class. She greeted Vincent with a kiss on the cheek and nodded politely to Maria, who was setting the dinner table. That smells delicious, Letitia commented, inhaling the aroma coming from the kitchen. Maria, you're a wonderful cook. Thank you, Mrs. Morgan, Maria replied, keeping her voice neutral. Lena came running from the kitchen wearing a small child's apron Maria had improvised. Aunt Letitia, I helped make dinner. Letitia bent down to the girl's level, forcing a smile. What? A clever girl. I'm sure it's delicious. For the first few minutes of dinner, the conversation flowed superficially. Letitia praised the food, asked about Vincent's work, and even showed genuine interest in Lena's activities. Maria began to wonder if Robert was wrong, if there had been some mistake in the documents. But then Vincent placed a folder next to his plate. Letitia, I need to discuss some financial matters with you. Of course, dear. I'm always available to help with your business. She took a sip of wine, completely unconcerned. It's about transactions you made using my power of attorney. Vincent opened the folder and pulled out a bank statement. Specifically, this account in the Cayman Islands that was apparently opened in my name in 2015. Letitia's fork stopped mid-air. Her eyes fixed on the document, and Maria saw the exact moment her expression shifted from confusion to panic, then to cold anger. Where did you get this? That matters less than the fact that it exists. Letitia, can you explain to me why there's an offshore account in my name with over $2 million in it? Letitia placed her fork on her plate with calculated care. Vincent, those are investment decisions I made to protect your assets. You gave me power of attorney to manage my business, not to create secret accounts. Vincent pulled out more documents. And these monthly transfers of $50,000 to a personal account of yours, were those also to protect my assets? The silence that followed was so thick Maria could hear her own heart beating. Lena, sensing the tension, stopped eating and looked between the adults with wide eyes. Mommy, why did everyone stop eating? Keep eating, my love, Maria whispered. Letitia composed herself, straightening her shoulders with the dignity of someone used to controlling difficult situations. Vincent, I'll be honest with you, yes, I use some resources for personal investments, but always with the intention of paying it back with interest. Some resources? Letitia, you've embezzled over $5 million over the years. Embezzled is a very strong word. Then what word would you use? Vincent's voice was getting louder, and Maria saw Lena shrink in her chair. I would use the word protected. Letitia stood up, pacing the room with measured steps. Vincent, you have no idea how many people have tried to get close to you over the years just for your money. I protected you from con artists, from gold diggers, from people who, like Maria, Vincent interrupted. Letitia looked at Maria with eyes like daggers. Exactly like Maria. So you admit that your campaign against her had nothing to do with protecting me and everything to do with protecting your access to my money. It's not like that. It's exactly like that. Vincent slammed his hand on the table, making Lena jump and start to cry softly. Maria immediately stood up and scooped the girl into her arms. Lena, let's go to our room. Let the grown-ups talk. No, Letitia said with a voice that cut through the air. Maria stays. She needs to hear this too. Hear what? Vincent asked. The truth about why she's really here. Letitia went to her purse and pulled out a different folder. Did you think I wouldn't do a thorough investigation? Robert Miller may have switched sides, but he's not the only PI in the city. Maria's blood ran cold. Maria Sanchez, Letitia began, opening the folder. Born into a lower-class family, married at 18 to John Sanchez, a construction worker. They had one daughter, Carolina. The husband died in a workplace accident 2 years ago, leaving considerable medical debt. Letitia, stop this, Vincent said. But the interesting part comes now. Letitia pulled a photo from the folder. This picture was taken 3 months ago, Maria. Do you remember where you were? Maria looked at the photo and felt the floor disappear from under her. It was an image of her entering an office, the office of a family law attorney. Can you explain to my nephew what you were doing at the office of Henry Matthews, an attorney who specializes in child support and paternity claims? I was, Maria stammered, realizing how it sounded. She was researching how to get child support from a rich man through her daughter, Letitia said with cruel satisfaction. Isn't that right, Maria? That's not what happened, Maria exclaimed, tears starting to stream down her face. I went there because a friend said he could help me with John's debts. But when I found out what kind of cases he handled, I left immediately. Of course you did. After you got the information you needed on how to approach vulnerable men. That's not true. Then why didn't you tell Vincent? If it was so innocent, why hide it? Maria looked at Vincent, who was watching her with an expression she couldn't decipher. Because I knew how it would sound. I knew you would think exactly this. Or because it is exactly this, Letitia retorted. Maria, you researched Vincent before you agreed to work at that event. You knew about his fortune, his loneliness, his need for companionship. No, I agreed to work at the event because I needed the money. And when you saw your opportunity, you put your daughter to work, a sweet child touching the heart of a, lonely man. Genius, really. Letitia, that's enough, Vincent yelled. But Lena, who had been frightened by all the tension, began to cry loudly. Mommy, why is the mean aunt saying those things? Why is she being mean to you? I'm not being mean, dear, Letitia said, softening her voice. I'm just trying to protect our friend Vincent from people who want to hurt him. My mommy doesn't want to hurt anyone. You're too young to understand, dear. Maria stood up abruptly, holding Lena tightly. That's it. Lena, we're leaving. Maria, no, Vincent said, reaching a hand out to her. No, Vincent. Letitia got what she wanted. She planted the seed of doubt, and now you'll never look at me the same way again. That's not true. Yes, it is. Maria looked at him with tear-filled eyes. I can see it in your face. You're wondering if she's right, if this was all planned. Vincent opened his mouth to protest, but hesitated for a fraction of a second. It was enough. That's it, Maria said, her voice breaking. The hesitation says it all. Maria, please. Lena, let's get our things. But, Mommy, I don't want to leave. Why can't we stay? With Vincent? Because sometimes what we want isn't what we should do. As Maria led Lena to their room, Letitia sat back down at the table, pouring herself more wine as if nothing had happened. Now you see, Vincent? See how manipulative she is? Even now, she's putting on a show to get your sympathy. Vincent watched Maria disappear down the hall, then looked at his aunt with an expression of disgust. You destroyed 3 lives tonight. I saved yours. You lied, manipulated, and hurt an innocent woman and a child. Innocent? Letitia laughed bitterly. Vincent, you're so desperate for companionship you're willing to ignore clear evidence. The only clear evidence here is that you're a thief and a liar. And yet, you'd rather believe a stranger than the only family you have? Vincent looked at the folder with the financial documents, then at Letitia's folder with the evidence against Maria. Do you know what the difference is between the two of you? Enlighten me. Maria told me the truth about you, even knowing it would hurt me. You lied about her to save yourself. Just then, Maria appeared in the hallway, carrying their suitcases and holding the hand of a silently crying Lena. Maria, Vincent called out. She stopped but didn't look back. Thank you for everything, Vincent. You're a good man. I hope you find the happiness you deserve. With anyone but you, Letitia muttered, but loud enough for everyone to hear. Maria finally turned, and Vincent saw a sadness in her eyes so profound he felt as if he'd been punched in the gut. You know what the saddest part of all this is, Letitia? Maria said, her voice calm but filled with pain. It's that you're so focused on protecting his money that you forgot to protect his heart, and now neither of us will get the chance to make him happy. With those words, Maria and Lena left the penthouse, taking with them the last hope of happiness Vincent had found in years. Letitia watched the elevator door close and smiled with satisfaction. There. Now your life can get back to normal. Vincent looked at his aunt with a coldness she had never seen before. Normal? You think this is normal? It's your reality, Vincent. Then I don't want this reality anymore. And for the first time in 5 years, Vincent wheeled his chair to his bedroom, closed the door, and allowed himself to cry for everything he had lost, and for everything he had just lost again. 3 weeks passed since Maria and Lena left the penthouse, and Vincent felt as if he were living in an absolute void. The home, which had come alive with their presence, now echoed with a deafening silence. The small pots of sunflowers Lena had planted remained in the garden, growing on their own, a constant reminder of what he had lost. Letitia visited regularly, bringing financial reports and trying to resume control of the business as if nothing had changed. But something fundamental had shifted in the dynamic between them. Vincent treated her with professional coldness, responding only when necessary, avoiding any conversation not strictly related to business. Vincent, you're being childish, Letitia said during one of her visits, flipping through documents about a new acquisition. I did what was necessary to protect you. You lied, you stole, and you destroyed the only chance at happiness I've had in years, he replied without looking up from his computer. Happiness based on an illusion isn't real happiness. And is happiness based on lies and manipulation? Letitia sighed, placing the papers on the table. Vincent, I know you're hurt now, but in time you'll realize I did the right thing. The right thing would have been to return my money and let me live my life. About the money, Letitia hesitated. I'm arranging for the gradual repayment of all the funds. It may take a few months, but I don't want your money back, Letitia. I want you out of my life. The words hit Letitia like a slap. You can't be serious. I'm completely serious. I revoked your power of attorney yesterday. From now on, all financial decisions will go through me and my lawyers only. Vincent, I'm your family. Family doesn't lie, doesn't steal, and doesn't destroy the happiness of the people they love. Across town, Maria was struggling to rebuild her life in a small apartment she had managed to rent with the savings from the 3 days she worked for Vincent. The place was modest, with 2 small rooms, but it was theirs. She had found a few odd cleaning jobs, but the money barely covered basic expenses. Lena, once a cheerful and talkative child, had become quiet and withdrawn. She constantly asked about Vincent, wanting to know why they couldn't see him anymore, why he didn't call, why everything had changed so quickly. "Mommy, does Vincent not like me anymore?" she asked one night, lying in the small bed they shared. "Of course he does, my love. Sometimes adults have complicated problems that kids can't understand. But I miss him, and the pretty house, and the sunflowers." Maria hugged her daughter, fighting back her own tears. "I miss it too, sweetie." One morning, while Lena was playing in the building's small courtyard, Maria received an unexpected call. "Hello? Mrs. Sanchez, this is Dr. Henry Matthews." Maria recognized the name immediately. The lawyer Letitia had mentioned during that terrible dinner. "Dr. Matthews?" "Ma'am, I know our consultation a few months ago was brief, but I kept your information because I was concerned about your situation. Yesterday, I received a very interesting call about you." "What kind of call?" "From a private investigator named Robert Miller. He told me what happened with the Morgan family and asked me to clarify the real reasons for your visit to my office." Maria's heart raced. "Doctor, I already explained at the time." "I know you did, and that's exactly why I kept our recorded conversation. With your permission, I'd like to send that recording to Mr. Vincent Morgan." I don't know if that's a good idea. Mrs. Sanchez, this recording proves that you rejected any attempt to use your daughter to get child support from wealthy men. In fact, you were outraged when I explained how that kind of scheme worked." Maria vaguely remembered the consultation. A friend had suggested she see the lawyer to resolve her late husband's medical debts. But when she got there and discovered he specialized in contested paternity and strategic support claims, she had left, immediately, horrified by the suggestion. "Why did you record our conversation?" "Because I have many consultations a day, ma'am, and because, frankly, I was impressed by your reaction when you realized what I really did. Most people who come here are interested in exactly the kind of service you rejected." Meanwhile, Robert Miller was in his office, organizing all the documents related to the case. He had decided to personally deliver to Vincent not only the evidence of Letitia's behavior, but also the recording Dr. Matthews had provided. When he arrived at the penthouse, he found Vincent in the garden, melancholically watching the sunflowers, which had grown considerably. "Mr. Morgan?" "Robert, I wasn't expecting you today. I have important information about Maria Sanchez, information that could change everything." Vincent looked at him skeptically. "If it's about proving she's innocent, I don't know if I want to hear it. The doubt has already been planted." "That's exactly what I want to talk about." Robert placed a recorder on the garden table. "This recording was made 3 months ago at Dr. Henry Matthews's office." He pressed play, and Maria's voice filled the air. "Doctor, I think there's been a misunderstanding. My friend told me you could help with medical debt, not with whatever this is you're suggesting. Mrs. Sanchez, understand that I'm just explaining your options. A young, attractive woman like yourself with a small child could easily find a wealthy man willing to take on responsibilities." "Stop! That's disgusting. Are you suggesting I use my daughter as bait to trick someone?" "It's just a reality of the modern world, ma'am. It's a reality I completely reject. My daughter is not an object, and I will not teach her that she can use tears and fake affection to get things. That's horrible." The recording continued with Maria getting up and leaving the office, clearly outraged. Vincent was silent for a long moment after the recording ended. "She was horrified by the suggestion," Robert explained, "and yet Letitia managed to twist that visit to seem like the opposite." "Did Letitia know this?" "I don't know if she knew the details, but she certainly knew she could use the visit against Maria, regardless of the real reasons." Vincent ran his hands over his face, feeling the weight of his own suspicion. "I doubted her, Robert. when Letitia showed me that photo, for a moment, I really thought you thought she might be planning something. It's natural, sir. Letitia planted the doubt at the perfect moment. And now? Maria will never forgive me for hesitating. You don't know that for sure. That afternoon, Vincent made a decision that would change everything. He picked up his phone and dialed Maria's number, which he had saved since the first day. The phone rang several times before she answered. Hello? Maria, it's Vincent. There was a long silence. Hi. I need to talk to you. It's important. I don't think that's a good idea. Please, I have something to show you. Something that changes everything. Vincent, I can't go through this again. I can't let Lena go through this again. How is Lena? Maria hesitated before answering. She's sad. She asks about you every day. I miss her too. I miss you both. But not enough to trust me when I needed it most. The accusation stung, but Vincent knew she was right. You're right. I doubted you when I shouldn't have, but now I know the truth about that visit to the lawyer. What do you mean? He recorded your conversation, Maria. He recorded you rejecting the exact kind of scheme Letitia suggested you were planning. Another silence. Does that change anything? Vincent asked. I don't know. Trust that's been broken is hard to fix. Let me try. Please. I need to think. Maria, there's one more thing you need to know. About Letitia. What? She hasn't given up. She's hired other investigators to keep digging into your life, and she's found out where you're living. Maria felt a chill run down her spine. What does that mean? It means she still sees you as a threat. And Letitia doesn't usually give up on eliminating threats. Vincent, you're scaring me. You should be. Maria, you and Lena need to get out of there today. To where? I don't have the money to... Come here. At least until I find out what Letitia is planning. I can't. After everything that happened. Maria, forget your pride for a moment. This is about Lina's safety. Just then, Maria heard the sound of cars pulling up in front of the building. She looked out the window and saw two men in dark suits walking up the stairs. Vincent, she whispered into the phone, I think it's too late. Maria, get out of the house now! Vincent yelled into the phone, but the call had dropped. Desperate, he immediately called Charles. I need you to take me to an address right away. It's an emergency. While waiting for his driver, Vincent called Robert Miller. Robert, Letitia sent people to Maria's apartment. I need help. I'm already on my way. And Mr. Morgan, there's something I discovered today that will change everything. Something about the accident that left you paralyzed. On the other end of the line, Maria held Lena against her chest, hiding in the bathroom as they listened to insistent knocking on the door. The men were shouting that they were from Child Protective Services and had a court order to evaluate the child's living conditions. Mommy, I'm scared, Lena whispered. I know, my love. We'll just stay here and be quiet. The knocking on the door intensified, followed by a sound Maria recognized as someone forcing the lock. They were coming in. Maria grabbed her phone and sent a desperate text to Vincent. Apt 23, 145 Flower Street. They're inside. Vincent showed the message to Charles, who floored it. They were 15 minutes away, but every second felt like an eternity. In the apartment, Maria heard male voices searching the rooms. Mrs. Sanchez, we know you're in there. We just want to talk. About the inadequate conditions this child is living in, another added. Maria recognized the sham immediately. They spoke with the coldness of people following a script, not the genuine concern of social workers. Her phone vibrated with a text from Robert Miller. I'm almost there. Stay hidden. A few minutes later, Maria heard a new set of voices in the apartment. Who are you, and what are you doing here? It was Robert's voice. We're from Child Protective Services. We have a report of child neglect. Interesting. I just got off the phone with the actual CPS office. They have no knowledge of any court order related to this address. There was a tense silence. Gentlemen, I suggest you leave now before I call the real police. Maria heard hurried footsteps and the door slamming. After a few minutes, Robert knocked softly on the bathroom door. Maria? It's Robert Miller. They're gone. She opened the door cautiously, still holding Lena. How did they know where I lived? Letitia hired other investigators after I switched sides. But Maria, there's something much more serious I need to tell you about her. Just then, Vincent arrived at the apartment, wheeling his chair quickly down the hall. Seeing Maria and Lena safe, he sighed in relief. Are you okay? Lena let go of her mother and ran to him. Vincent, you came to save us! He hugged her tightly, feeling how much he had missed that small display of pure affection. Always, little one. I will always protect you. Maria watched him with tears in her eyes, touched by how genuinely he cared for Lena. Robert, Vincent said, you mentioned something about my accident. Robert took a folder from his briefcase. Mr. Morgan, during my investigation into Letitia's business dealings, I discovered something disturbing. She hired a mechanic named Sergio Andrade 5 years ago to do some preventative maintenance on your car. And what's the problem with that? The problem is that Sergio Andrade was arrested last week for tampering with the brake systems on wealthy clients' cars, causing accidents so family members could inherit life insurance policies. Vincent's world stopped. Are you saying that... I'm saying there's circumstantial evidence that your accident was no accident, and that Letitia may have been responsible for it. Maria covered her mouth with her hands, horrified. Why? Why would she do that? Because 5 years ago you were about to marry Amanda Miller. Do you remember her? Vincent nodded slowly. Amanda had been the love of his life, but she had ended things abruptly right after the accident, claiming she couldn't handle his new condition. Amanda broke up with you not because she couldn't accept your disability, but because Letitia threatened her. I spoke with her yesterday. Letitia told her that if Amanda didn't get out of your life, she would make sure the accident looked like it was caused by her negligence, since Amanda often drove your car as well. My God, Vincent whispered. Letitia orchestrated your isolation, sir. The accident, Amanda's departure, the friends who drifted away, all to keep you dependent on her and under her financial control. The revelation was like a punch to the gut. Vincent remembered how wonderfully helpful Letitia had been after the accident, how she had taken over all his business temporarily, how she had made herself indispensable in his life. Where's the proof for all this? Sergio Andrade decided to cooperate with the authorities in exchange for a reduced sentence. He has records of all the jobs he did for Letitia, including on your car. Maria moved closer to Vincent and placed a hand on his shoulder. I'm so sorry. This is horrible. She destroyed 5 years of my life. She made me believe I was alone in the world when she was the one who had pushed away everyone who loved me. Not everyone, Maria said softly. She couldn't push us away. Vincent looked at her and at Lena, who was sitting in his lap playing with the buttons on his shirt, oblivious to the adult revelations. Maria, can I ask for your forgiveness for my suspicion? I know I don't deserve it, but... Vincent, you were manipulated by the person you trusted most. You don't need to apologize for being a victim. Yes, I do. Because in the moment that mattered most, when you needed my trust, I hesitated. And now? Now I have no more doubts. About anything. Robert put the documents away. Mr. Morgan, Letitia is going to be arrested. Her crimes range from financial fraud to attempted murder. But first, we need to make sure you're all safe. Safe how? Maria asked. Come home with me, Vincent said. This time to stay, if you'll have me. Maria looked at Lena, who had perked up at the word home. Are we going back to the pretty house, Mommy? And the sunflowers? Do you want to go back, Lena? I do. I want us to be a real family. Maria looked at Vincent. Are you sure this is what you want, after everything that's happened? Maria, 5 years ago I lost the ability to walk, but 3 weeks ago I lost something much worse. I lost hope. You two gave that back to me. If you give me a second chance, I promise I will never again doubt the love we have. Love? Maria repeated, her cheeks flushing. Yes, love, because that's what I feel for you, for Lena, because she taught me that being different doesn't mean being less. And for you, because you showed me that I can still be loved for who I am, not for what I have. Tears streamed down Maria's face. I love you too, Vincent. And not for what you have or don't have, but for the kind and caring man you are. So, you'll come home with me? Only if you promise one thing. Anything. That we'll plant more sunflowers in the garden. Lena missed them so much. Vincent laughed, a genuine, joyful laugh that Maria hadn't heard in weeks. I promise. We'll turn the whole garden into a field of sunflowers. A week later, Letitia was arrested at her home, facing multiple charges that would ensure she spent many years far from any opportunity to hurt others. The truth about Vincent's accident came out, and Amanda even called to apologize, explaining how she had been threatened. In the penthouse, life had begun again, with a completely new energy. The garden was being transformed into the promised sunflower field, and Lena spent hours planting, watering, and talking to the plants as if they were her friends. Maria had officially taken over the care of the house, but now as part of the family, not just an employee. Vincent had given her limited power of attorney for domestic decisions and a joint account for household expenses, gestures of trust that meant more to her than any expensive jewelry. One evening, as they watched Lena sleep in her own room, now permanently decorated like a sunflower princess's chamber, Vincent took Maria's hand. I can't believe I almost let Leticia destroy this, he said. The important thing is that you didn't. In the end, you chose to trust in love. And you? Can you forgive me for doubting? Maria smiled, leaning in to kiss him softly. I forgave you a long time ago. You came for us when you realized the truth. That's what matters. I love you, Maria. I love you too. From the garden, the scent of growing sunflowers drifted in through the window, carrying with it the promise of brighter days. Lena had been right from the very first day. They were a family that had overcome lies, manipulation, and mistrust to find something real and lasting. And when Lena woke up the next morning, she found Vincent and Maria having coffee together, planning an engagement party in the garden, surrounded by the sunflowers she had planted, perfect symbols of how true love always finds a way to grow and bloom, even after the most difficult storms.